11-year-old girl sneaks out at night. What her mom discovers will terrify you. Part 2. Detective Reynolds, now fully assigned to the case, became Olivia's point of contact at the police department. He was a stark contrast to the initial officers she'd encountered: empathetic, thorough, and determined. He meticulously reviewed Olivia's evidence, recognizing the patterns that aligned with grooming and potential trafficking. The black sedan's license plate, while registered to a shell corporation, led them to a leasing company. The records, obtained via subpoena, showed a consistent rental history linked to an address of Vanessa's townhouse. Reynolds also delved into Vanessa's background. Her seemingly legitimate business, a talent agency for young models and actresses, raised immediate red flags. Financial records showed large, unexplained transactions, and several former clients were now untraceable. The investigation widened to include potential interstate connections, bringing in the FBI. Meanwhile, Sarah Miller, Olivia's lawyer, was building a parallel legal offensive. She successfully argued for an emergency custody hearing, presenting the evidence Olivia had gathered, along with Detective Reynolds' preliminary findings. The judge, visibly disturbed by the evidence, granted Olivia temporary sole custody of Emma, further restricting Veronica and Finn's access. Veronica, furious, attempted to retaliate through social media, posting veiled accusations and painting Olivia as an infant mother. However, Sarah Miller swiftly obtained a cease and desist order, effectively silencing Veronica's public attacks. The legal tide was turning, but Olivia knew this was just the beginning of a long and painful process. Emma, though safe at home, remained deeply traumatized. She had nightmares, flinched at sudden noises, and struggled to concentrate at school. Dr. Chen, her therapist, worked patiently with her, using play therapy and art to help her process the trauma. Slowly, painstakingly, Emma began to verbalize her experiences, describing Vanessa's manipulative tactics, the important people she had been introduced to, and the fear that had kept her silent. These therapy sessions, while agonizing for Olivia to hear about, provided crucial information. Emma remembered a specific detail. One of the important people had a distinctive tattoo, a serpent coiled around a dagger on his left forearm. This seemingly small detail would prove to be a significant breakthrough. Detective Reynolds followed up on Emma's description of the tattoo. He circulated a detailed sketch among law enforcement agencies, focusing on known associates of Vanessa and individuals with a history of sex offenses. Days turned into weeks, and the investigation seemed to stall. Olivia began to feel the familiar pangs of despair, but Reynolds remained persistent. Then, a hit came from an unexpected source. The patrol officer in a neighboring state recognized the tattoo from a recent arrest. The individual, a man named Arthur Jenkins, had been picked up on a minor drug charge. A background check revealed a more disturbing history and multiple arrests for soliciting minors and involvement in a suspected prostitution ring. Jenkins was currently out on bail. Reynolds immediately contacted the authorities in the neighboring state, sharing the information about Emma's case and Vanessa's potential involvement. They agreed to cooperate, recognizing the possibility of a larger criminal network. Jenkins, brought in for questioning, initially denied any knowledge of Emma or Vanessa. However, faced with the evidence, Emma's description, his tattoo, and his known criminal history, he began to crack. He revealed that Vanessa was a recruiter, identifying vulnerable young girls and grooming them for a network of wealthy and influential clients. He himself had been one of those clients. Jenkins provided crucial information about Vanessa's operation, including the names of other recruiters, the locations where the girls were taken, and the methods used to control them. He also identified several other clients, prominent figures in business, politics, and entertainment. The scale of the operation was far larger and more disturbing than Olivia or Reynolds had initially imagined. The information Jenkins provided was enough to obtain search warrants for Vanessa's townhouse and her talent agency. The raids, conducted simultaneously by local police and FBI agents, yielded a trove of evidence: computers with encrypted files, client lists, photographs of young girls, and large sums of cash. Vanessa was arrested, along with several of her associates. The news of Vanessa's arrest and the subsequent revelations about her criminal network sent shockwaves through the community. The respectable talent agency was exposed as a front for a child exploitation ring. and the names of some of the clients implicated in the scandal sent ripples of disbelief and outrage through the highest echelons of society. With Vanessa in custody and the investigation widening, Olivia turned her attention to Veronica. She knew her sister-in-law was deeply involved, not just a bystander. The threat of the photos still loomed, and Olivia was determined to neutralize Veronica's power over her and Emma. Sarah Miller, Olivia's lawyer, advised a direct confrontation, backed by the weight of the ongoing criminal investigation. They arranged a meeting with Veronica and her lawyer, a less formidable attorney than Vanessa's, clearly outmatched by Sarah Miller's experience and determination. The meeting was tense and acrimonious. Veronica, initially defiant, began to crumble under the pressure. Sarah Miller presented the evidence: Veronica's suspicious behavior, her knowledge of Vanessa's operation, her attempts to manipulate Emma, and her threats to release the photos. She also informed Veronica that the police were investigating her potential involvement in the trafficking ring. Faced with the possibility of criminal charges and the exposure of her own complicity, Veronica's bravado evaporated. She claimed she had been unaware of Vanessa's true activities, that she had only been trying to help Emma, that she had been manipulated herself. Her excuses were weak and unconvincing. Sarah Miller presented a proposition: Veronica would sign a sworn affidavit admitting her knowledge of Vanessa's operation, renouncing any claim to custody or visitation with Emma, and agreeing to cooperate fully with the police investigation. In return, Olivia would agree not to press charges against her for her involvement, provided she remained silent and stayed away from Emma. Veronica, seeing her carefully constructed world collapsing around her, reluctantly agreed. She signed the affidavit, her hand trembling, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and resentment. The threat of the photos was neutralized, and Veronica's power over Olivia was broken. The meeting ended with a cold, formal handshake. Olivia felt no sense of triumph, only a profound weariness and a deep sadness for the damage that had been done. She had protected her daughter, but the cost had been high. The family ties were severed, the trust shattered, and the scars of the betrayal would likely never fully heal. Vanessa's trial was a media sensation. The combination of a glamorous defendant, prominent clients, and the horrific nature of the crimes ensured constant headlines and intense public scrutiny. The courtroom was packed each day, filled with reporters, victims' advocates, and curious onlookers. Olivia, though dreading the ordeal, knew she had to be there. She had to support Emma, to bear witness to the proceedings, and to ensure that justice was served. Emma, at her own request, did not attend the trial. Dr. Chen believed it would be too traumatizing for her. Instead, Olivia relayed the key details to her, carefully filtering the information and providing reassurance. The prosecution presented a mountain of evidence: the seized computers and phones, the client lists, the financial records, the testimony of Arthur Jenkins, and the corroborating accounts of other young women who had been victimized by Vanessa's network. The defense, despite their best efforts, could not overcome the sheer weight of the evidence. Vanessa, maintaining her innocence to the end, claimed she had been running a legitimate talent agency, that she had been unaware of any illegal activities, and that she had been framed by disgruntled clients and jealous rivals. Her testimony was unconvincing, her demeanor cold and arrogant, further alienating the jury. The most powerful testimony came from the victims themselves. Several young women, their identities protected, bravely took the stand, recounting their experiences of grooming, manipulation, and abuse. Their stories were heartbreaking, their courage inspiring, and their testimony devastating to Vanessa's defense. After weeks of testimony and deliberation, the jury returned a verdict: guilty on all counts. Vanessa was convicted of multiple charges of child trafficking, sexual exploitation, and conspiracy. She was sentenced to a lengthy prison term, effectively ending her reign of terror. The verdict was a victory for Olivia, for Emma, and for all the victims of Vanessa's network. But it was a bittersweet victory. The damage had been done, the lives irrevocably altered, and the healing process would be long and arduous. Following Vanessa's trial, several of her clients were also prosecuted, facing charges ranging from soliciting minors to participating in child pornography. The scandal reached far and wide, exposing the dark underbelly of wealth and power, and shattering the illusions of respectability that had shielded these men for so long. While Vanessa's trial was a major step, there was still one crucial piece of unfinished business, holding Finn, Veronique's son, accountable for his role in the attempted coercion and his knowledge of the abuse. Although Finn was not directly involved in the trafficking ring, his complicity in Veronique's scheme to pair him with Emma, and his possession of the compromising photos, constituted a separate offense. Detective Reynolds, with Sarah Miller's support, pursued charges against Finn. The evidence was clear: Veronique's statements, Finn's presence during the threatening encounter, and the photos themselves, which were recovered from his phone. The prospect of testifying against Finn was daunting for Emma. She had to face the son of the woman who had tried to exploit her, to relive the humiliation and fear she had experienced. Dr. Chen worked intensively with Emma, preparing her for the ordeal, helping her to find her voice and to reclaim her power. The hearing, held in juvenile court, was closed to the public to protect Emma's privacy. Olivia sat beside her daughter, holding her hand, offering silent support. Emma, though nervous, was remarkably composed. She answered the questions clearly and truthfully, describing Veronique's proposal, Finn's presence, and the threat of the photos. Finn, represented by a court-appointed attorney, denied any wrongdoing. He claimed he had been unaware of his mother's intentions, that he had simply been present, that he had never intended to harm Emma. His testimony was unconvincing, contradicted by the evidence and by Emma's unwavering account. The judge, after hearing the testimony and reviewing the evidence, found Finn delinquent on charges of coercion and intimidation. He was sentenced to a period of probation, mandatory counseling, and community service. While the sentence was less severe than what Vanessa had received, it was a significant step towards holding all those involved accountable. For Emma, testifying against Finn was a crucial part of her healing process. It allowed her to confront her fears, to reclaim her voice, and to assert her agency. It was a symbolic victory, a demonstration that she would no longer be silenced, that she would no longer be a victim. With the legal battles largely behind them, Olivia and Emma could finally focus on rebuilding their lives. The trauma they had endured had left deep scars, but it had also forged a stronger bond between them. They had faced the darkness together, and they had emerged, battered but not broken. The first priority was restoring a sense of safety and normalcy. Olivia sold their house in Willow Creek, recognizing that it held too many painful memories. They moved to a new town, a smaller, quieter community where they could start fresh, away from the whispers and the judgment. Olivia found a new job at a local library, a peaceful and fulfilling environment that allowed her to be close to Emma. Emma started at a new school, making new friends and gradually regaining her confidence. She continued her therapy with Dr. Chen, working through the trauma, learning coping mechanisms, and building resilience. The process of rebuilding trust was slow and delicate. Emma had learned a harsh lesson about the dangers of the world, about the capacity for evil that lurked beneath the surface of seemingly ordinary lives. She struggled with anxiety, with trust issues, and with a deep-seated fear of being hurt again. Olivia was patient and understanding, providing Emma with unwavering love and support. She listened to her fears, validated her feelings, and reassured her that she was safe, that she was loved, and that she was not alone. She also set clear boundaries, establishing rules and guidelines that helped Emma feel secure and protected. They developed new routines, new rituals that helped them reconnect and rebuild their bond. They spent more time together, reading, watching movies, cooking, and simply talking. They rediscovered the joy of simple pleasures, the comfort of shared laughter, and the healing power of unconditional love. Olivia also made a conscious effort to reconnect with her own support network. She joined a support group for parents of children who had experienced abuse, finding solace and understanding in the shared experiences of others. She leaned on her friends, her family, those who had remained supportive, and her therapist for guidance and encouragement. The road to recovery was long and winding, filled with setbacks and challenges. But Olivia and Emma were determined to walk it together, hand in hand, supporting each other every step of the way. They were survivors, not victims, and they were determined to build a future filled with hope, healing, and a renewed sense of joy. Several years passed. Emma, now a teenager, was thriving. She was a confident, articulate, and compassionate young woman, with a strong sense of self and a deep commitment to helping others. She had channeled her trauma into a passion for social justice, volunteering at a local crisis center and speaking out against child abuse. But the past still lingered, a shadow that occasionally darkened her days. She still had nightmares, still struggled with anxiety, still carried the scars of the abuse she had endured. Olivia knew that the healing process was ongoing, that it would likely be a lifelong journey. One day, Emma received a letter. It was from Veronica, who was serving a prison sentence for her role in facilitating Vanessa's operation. Veronica had been charged as an accessory, her cooperation with the authorities leading to a reduced sentence. The letter was an apology, a plea for forgiveness, and an attempt to explain her actions. Emma was hesitant to read it, her initial reaction a mixture of anger and fear. But with Olivia's support, she decided to face her past, to confront the woman who had so profoundly betrayed her. The letter was rambling and self-serving, filled with excuses and justifications. Veronica claimed she had been manipulated by Vanessa, that she had been blinded by greed and ambition, that she had never intended to harm Emma. She expressed remorse, but it felt hollow, insincere. But amidst the self-pity and the excuses, there were glimmers of truth, hints of the underlying motivations that had driven Veronica's actions. She wrote of her own difficult childhood, her feelings of inadequacy, her desperate desire for wealth and status. She described the pressure she had felt from her husband, Robert, to maintain a certain lifestyle, to compete with other families, to achieve success at any cost. Emma, reading the letter, felt a complex mix of emotions: anger, sadness, pity, and a flicker of understanding. She could see the brokenness in Veronica, the deep-seated insecurities that had fueled her destructive behavior. She could see the cycle of abuse, the way that trauma can be passed down through generations. She decided to write back, not to forgive Veronica, but to acknowledge her pain and to set clear boundaries. She told Veronica that she would never forget what she had done, that she would never fully trust her, but that she was willing to move forward, to focus on her own healing and her own future. The exchange of letters was a difficult but necessary step for both Emma and Olivia. It allowed them to confront the past, to process their emotions, and to begin to let go of the anger and resentment that had consumed them for so long. It was a step towards closure, towards a future free from the shadow of Veronica's betrayal. As Emma prepared to graduate from high school, she reflected on her journey, on the darkness she had endured, and the light she had found. She had survived unimaginable trauma, but she had also emerged stronger, more resilient, and more determined to make a difference in the world. She had been accepted into a prestigious university, where she planned to study psychology and social work. She wanted to use her experiences to help others, to advocate for victims of abuse, and to work towards creating a safer, more just world for children. Olivia, watching her daughter blossom into a confident and compassionate young woman, felt a profound sense of pride and gratitude. She had fought for Emma, protected her, and supported her through the darkest of times. And now, she was witnessing the fruits of her labor, the blossoming of a life that had almost been extinguished. They had moved again, this time to a small college town, far away from the memories of Willow Creek and the shadow of Vanessa and Veronica. They had built a new life, a new home, a new community of friends and supporters. They had found peace, stability, and a renewed sense of hope. On the eve of Emma's graduation, Olivia and Emma sat together on their porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and purple. They talked about the future, about Emma's plans for college, about her dreams and aspiration. "Mom," Emma said, her voice filled with emotion, "I know it hasn't been easy. I know I've put you through a lot, but I want you to know, I'm okay. I'm going to be okay." Olivia smiled, tears welling up in her eyes. "I know you are, honey," she said. "You're the strongest, most resilient person I know." They sat in silence for a moment, simply enjoying each other's company, the warmth of the setting sun, and the quiet peace that had finally settled over their lives. "I'm proud of you, Mom," Emma said, breaking the silence. "You saved me. You never gave up on me." Olivia reached out and took her daughter's hand, her heart overflowing with love. "You saved yourself, Emma," she said. "You were the brave one. You found your voice, you spoke your truth, and you never stop fighting." They sat together, hand in hand, watching the last rays of the sun disappear below the horizon. The darkness that had once threatened to consume them was gone, replaced by the gentle glow of twilight, a promise of a new day, a new beginning. The legal ramifications of Vanessa's crimes and the subsequent investigations continued to unfold. Several of her high-profile clients faced prosecution, their careers and reputations ruined. The scandal exposed the widespread nature of child exploitation and the complicity of those in positions of power. It sparked a national conversation about the need for stronger laws, better protection for children, and greater accountability for those who prey on the vulnerable. Arthur Jenkins, the man with the serpent tattoo, was convicted of multiple counts of sexual assault and sentenced to a lengthy prison term. His testimony had been crucial in dismantling Vanessa's network, and while his own crimes were reprehensible, his cooperation ultimately helped bring justice to many victims. Robert, Veronique's husband and Olivia's brother, was not directly implicated in the criminal activities, but his association with Veronica and his tacit approval of her behavior led to his social and professional downfall. He lost his job, his friends, and his standing in the community. He attempted to reconcile with Olivia and Emma, but the damage was irreparable. The trust had been broken, and the wounds were too deep to heal. The legal battles had been long and exhausting, but Olivia felt a sense of closure, a sense of justice having been served. The perpetrators had been held accountable, the victims had been heard, and the system, though flawed, had ultimately worked. But Olivia knew that justice was not just about punishment. It was also about healing, about restoration, about creating a world where such crimes could never happen again. She became actively involved in child advocacy organizations, supporting other survivors and their families, and working to raise awareness about the issue of child exploitation. She also focused on her own healing, continuing her therapy and seeking support from her friends and community. She learned to manage her anxiety, to cope with the triggers, and to live with the scars of the past without letting them define her. She found strength in her relationship with Emma, in their shared journey of recovery, and in their unwavering commitment to each other. They had been through hell and back, but they had emerged stronger, more resilient, and more determined to live a life filled with love, purpose, and hope. Years later, Emma stood on a stage, addressing a crowd of students, educators, and community leaders. She was a confident, articulate young woman, her voice strong and clear, her eyes filled with passion and purpose. She was sharing her story, not as a victim, but as a survivor, an advocate, and a champion for change. She spoke of the abuse she had endured, of the manipulation, the exploitation, and the betrayal. She spoke of the fear, the shame, the isolation, and the long road to recovery. But she also spoke of hope, of healing, of resilience, and of the power of the human spirit to overcome even the most unimaginable trauma. She spoke of the importance of believing victims, of supporting survivors, and of holding perpetrators accountable. She called for stronger laws, better education, and greater awareness of the issue of child exploitation. She urged her audience to be vigilant, to be proactive, and to be a part of the solution. Olivia, sitting in the audience, watched her daughter with tears in her eyes. She was overwhelmed with pride, with gratitude, and with a profound sense of awe at the strength and resilience of this young woman who had once been a frightened, vulnerable child. Emma had not only survived, she had thrived. She had transformed her pain into purpose, her trauma into triumph. She had become a voice for the voiceless, a beacon of hope for those who had been silenced, a testament to the power of healing and the enduring possibility of a brighter future. As Emma finished her speech, the crowd erupted in applause. They rose to their feet, giving her a standing ovation, their faces filled with admiration and respect. Emma smiled, her eyes shining with tears, her heart filled with gratitude. She had found her voice, her purpose, her power. She had taken back her life, and she was using it to make a difference in the world. She was a survivor, a warrior, a champion for change. And she was just getting started. The story of Olivia and Emma, though filled with darkness and pain, ultimately became a story of hope, resilience, and the enduring power of love. It was a reminder that even in the face of unimaginable trauma, healing is possible, justice can be served, and the human spirit can triumph. It was a testament to the courage of survivors, the importance of advocacy, and the unwavering commitment of those who fight for a better world, a world where children are safe, protected, and free to reach their full potential. The legacy of their struggle was not one of despair, but one of hope, a beacon of light shining brightly in the darkness, illuminating the path towards a future where all children can thrive.